On a cold autumn evening, Sarah arrived at the haunted house she had inherited from her grandmother. People in the village called it the Cursed Mansion. They said spirits roamed its dark halls and that whispers could be heard at night. But Sarah never believed in ghost stories. She pushed open the old rusted iron gate. It squeaked so loud that it made her flinch. In front of her stood a huge, broken-down house. Its windows looked like eyes watching her every move. Sarah shivered as she stepped onto the cracked path. The closer she got, the colder it felt. She stared at the heavy wooden door. For a second, she wanted to turn back. But something deep inside told her she had to know the truth about her family's secrets. Taking a deep breath, she grabbed the doorknob. It was freezing cold in her hand. She pushed the door open, and it creaked as if it hadn't moved in years. As she stepped inside, her footsteps echoed through the empty halls. The air was cold and smelled of dust and old wood. Inside, the mansion was a maze of dark, dusty corridors. Faded portraits lined the walls, and it felt like every pair of painted eyes was watching her every move. Sarah's eyes stopped on one old portrait, a young woman with long dark hair. She looked almost exactly like Sarah. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Who was she? Why did she look so much like her? She shook her head, trying to push the thought away. It's just a house, she told herself. Just old paintings and broken walls. But deep down, something whispered that she wasn't truly alone. Sarah decided to go deeper inside the haunted house. She walked slowly through the dusty hallway, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Old furniture stood like silent statues, covered in sheets that looked like ghosts in the dark. She passed them and saw a narrow staircase ahead. It creaked under her feet as she climbed up. At the top, she found an old library. The room smelled of mold and old paper. Broken shelves were filled with dusty books no one had touched in years. In the middle of the room was a table. On it lay an old, cracked diary. Sarah's hands shook as she opened it. Inside, the pages were filled with strange symbols and faded words. Secret room, sacrifice, curse. Her grandmother's name was written again and again. As Sarah opened the next page, she saw the same words again. Secret room. On the next page, her grandmother's writing looked like it was done with shaking hands. The words were hard to read, but she made out. The hidden room hides the secrets. Sarah felt her heart pound faster. Where was this hidden room? Where could she find it? How could she even start? Her head felt dizzy and her face was full of fear. Then, in the cold silence, she heard it. Someone whispered, "Sarah." She turned around quickly, but when she looked, no one was there. Sarah closed the diary and held it tight against her chest. Suddenly, she felt someone touch her from behind a cold hand on her shoulder. She spun around, her eyes wide with fear, but there was no one there. Her breath shook as she looked around the old library. Then she saw something in the front cupboard. A piece of paper, a map was lying there. It looked old, but somehow it was shining in the dusty dark room, like it was waiting for her to find it. Sarah stepped closer, her hands trembling again. Sarah took her candle and slowly walked to the cupboard. She reached out and picked up the old map. There were strange, scary symbols drawn all over it. She stared at it, surprised. Was this key to the hidden room her grandmother wrote about? Or was it something worse? Her hands shook as she held the map close, trying to understand what to do next. As Sarah opened the map, she saw strange marks and lines all over it. It showed a hidden path inside the house. Her eyes stopped at one spot on the map. A room was circled with shaky writing next to it. Sarah's eyes went wide. Her heartbeat grew faster. She found it. What surprised her even more was that the hidden room was inside the library. But the library has no other doors, she thought. How can there be a room there? She looked closer at the map and traced the lines with her finger. Yes, There was a path behind the shelves in the library. She held up her candle and slowly moved closer. Pushing the heavy shelves aside, her hands shook. Behind them was an old wooden door. It looked so scary, covered in strange symbols that glowed in the candlelight. Sarah took a deep breath. Her hand was shaking as she reached for the old door's handle. It was cold and rough under her fingers. She pushed the door open slowly. It made a low, creaking sound that echoed through the library. Inside, the hidden room was dark and smelled of damp wood and old paper. Dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts. She held up her candle and stepped inside. Old boxes and broken furniture were everywhere. Strange symbols were drawn on the walls. In the middle of the room, an old mirror was placed on a wooden stand. It was covered with a thick, dusty cloth. Sarah felt her hands shake as she reached for the cloth. She pulled it off slowly. The glass was dark at first, but then an image started to appear in the mirror. Her eyes widened. She could see a woman inside the glass. It was her grandmother, looking young, scared, and trying to say something Sarah couldn't hear. Sarah's heart raced. She stepped closer, staring deep into the mirror, waiting for the whispers to return. Inside the mirror, she saw her grandmother's face. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Cold air filled the room. The mirror showed shadows and strange symbols. Her grandmother looked scared, pressing her hand on the glass. A whisper came. "Finish it. Set us free." Sarah's hands shook. She knew she couldn't leave now. Sarah looked closer at the mirror. The symbols on the frame matched the ones on the map. Touched the glass, it felt warm, like it was alive. More whispers filled the room. She turned around. Shadows moved on the walls, watching her. She had to finish what her grandmother started. It was the only way to break the curse. Sarah held her candle. She looked at the mirror. Her reflection looked older and sad. She remembered the diary. "Finish what I couldn't. Set us free." Her heart beat fast. She touched the strange symbols on the mirror. The whispers got louder. She whispered, "I will finish this." The mirror began to crack, and one by one, the ghosts drifted out like pale mist. Sarah's heart pounded so fast she could feel it in her ears. When the last spirit faded into the darkness, the house grew silent. No more whispers, no more moving shadows. Now, the old mansion was just that, an old, empty house with no secrets left to hide. Sarah smiled, feeling lighter than she ever had. She sank into an old chair, taking a deep breath. The ghosts were free, and so was she. Sarah knew she could finally walk away from this place, and this time, the darkness would never follow her again.